Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Changing Phases Tarot. So happy to have you here with me today. Now today's reading is a daily tarot snapshot reading, just a one card reading, focusing on the energy surrounding us on Tuesday, January 30th, 2018. As you can see, I'm using the Akashic Tarot deck, right, again for today's reading, and I have already pulled the card, really just to try to save time here. The card for today, let me hold it up so you can get a good look at it, is the Four of Scrolls. Okay, again, this Akashic Tarot deck is a little different than, the traditional tarot deck. One, it only has 62 cards instead of 78, but also the meanings of the cards are quite different. For example, this Four of Scrolls card, in this deck, it's called the Karmic Trench. Okay, so traditionally, the suit of scrolls, it would be similar to the suit of swords or the suit of air in the traditional tarot, which has to do with the world of our minds, right? Communication, study. It's cerebral energy, so our thoughts, our creativity, imagination, and it's the messages, the things that we come up with in our minds and how we communicate those messages to others, right? And usually the Four of Swords in the traditional tarot, it's a card that speaks of withdrawing. It's kind of withdrawing in order to reflect upon your life, in order to recuperate from something. Could be a difficult situation, some type of, battle, and, could be an emotional sort of retreating after a difficult time. But it's really about resting and recharging both your mind and your body before, moving ahead. So it's kind of taking that step back, reevaluating everything, looking at the situation and figuring out where to go from there kind of energy. But in this deck, it's quite different. It's a very specific message that comes through with the Four of Scrolls, and it's very tied to karma, right? And the card itself, like I said, it's called the Karmic Trench. And what it has to do with is, we can see here, there's a man, and he's planting, right? Or he's in this field that needs to be planted, right? And, he's standing there, and he's kind of up to his knees in the dirt. All the seeds are there waiting to be planted. You can see next to him, he has bags and bags of seeds. But it's like he's still digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and there are other things, other rows waiting to be planted, but it's like he's not even noticing them over there. He's just kind of going deeper and deeper without even really doing anything or getting anywhere, And so the card, what it speaks of mainly is you kind of having gone through, a very difficult pattern in your life, or maybe there's this pattern that, that continues to, it's kind of like going round and round and round, that you find yourself, with these self-defeating feelings or thoughts, that are possibly related to previous incarnations. It's kind of like, why do I always end up getting into, the same type of relationship? Or, why do I have the same type of issues at my jobs? Why do I, always end up having this, and this happen to me? It's kind of like those repeating patterns, and how you've come back to this lifetime with the intention of breaking some type of karmic pattern, right? But possibly you've allowed yourself to sort of slip into those same old thoughts, the same old behaviors, and it just it gets harder and harder for you to pull yourself out of it, And so, the card kind of asks you to note or try to notice that, or when you notice yourself making one of those same choices that, that kind of brings you back to that, oh, I've, been through this before, or done this before, and, it didn't work the last time. Why am I in the same sort of situation? Which is really, you digging deeper into this karmic trench. and how you can change your mind and change your actions, right, to pull you up out of that, to dig yourself out of that karmic trench. And the message that goes along with this card, there's an Akashic Force message, and it says, take a moment to remember an old negative pattern that you know all too well, one that has kept you stuck. Close your eyes and breathe in the presence and power of your higher self. You become stronger. You are filled with the will to step out of the mud. And you do, now and every time you fall into this pattern again. So it's interesting because it is about awareness, self-awareness. And, and many times, we do come into this life with these karmic lessons, with these things that we are meant to kind of go through again. But we're also meant to, at times, realize, okay, I have been through this before. What is it that I need to learn? What was the lesson, what happened the last time that I went through this, in order to get out of that, to break that pattern, to break that cycle, to dig yourself out of that karmic trench. So this is a pretty deep message, no pun intended there, to have, the beginning of the week. And I was thinking yesterday we also had a 4. I'm trying to remember, it was the 4 of, I think it was the 4 of Wands yesterday. And then we have the 4 of Scrolls today. So 2 4s in a row, but this one is very much tied to, looking at your life, looking at those, those karmic sort of relationships, or those karmic situations, trying to break free, getting out of those, and then, understanding that many times these karmic changes, they don't happen overnight. It's difficult to break old patterns of beliefs or old feelings, but it's all about noticing it, recognizing it, and then, working slowly, much like, seeds. That's what it was. It was yesterday. There was something about the seeds, right? And sowing and planting for now and reaping them. The rewards later. It doesn't happen overnight. It does take time, but the important thing is noticing, right? And starting to break free of those karmic ties. So, interesting message for us today. So I do hope that the messages have helped you in some way. I thank you very much for joining me. Look forward to reading for you again tomorrow, and just know that I'm sending you all much peace, love, and light. Bye for now.